Welcome into another edition of Inside Carolinas This Week in UNC Baseball with Scott Forbes, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Grace Nugent. That, of course, is Scott Forbes, the head coach of the now Chapel Hill regional champion, North Carolina Tar Heels. And Coach Forbes, we know it's a hectic time, and I wanted to just jump straight into that. Is that the way the calendar's set up with college baseball, it's always something going on outside of the actual game between the lines. How do you guys manage it? I mean, you talk about your staff, you've got great guys all around you, but still, it is a hectic time, and we haven't even talked about the actual baseball game yet.
See this right here? A lot of this. Coffee. No. That is the trickiest part, like we were just talking about. You put so much time, effort, and energy in your team, and your players deserve 100%, not 99% of your time and your effort and your energy. And then as a coach, you're realistic, and you know that if you want to be in this position again next year, you have to always have in your mind next year's team. So that's just part of coaching, and you have to manage it. But I refuse to take away from our current team and their experience. So if that means making the phone calls at night, do you have a kid visit this time of year? You may have to, but you have to work in the schedule where it doesn't take away from your team's practice, your team events. If you have a team dinner, and the group this time of year, is so hard to host a regional and to win a regional and to be in a super regional. And as important as recruiting is, I also want them, as this is their team. So this time of year, I don't really believe in having, like a team meal and then 5 recruits are going to be at that team meal. So you just have to manage it. Tommy and Grace is part of it. A lot of phone calls. But that's okay. It's part of what we have to do. And you might as well not complain about it because you can't change it right now. Hopefully we'll get better and the portal window maybe will change. But you also have to be patient with this portal process and get the right guys. We did get some guys that are on this team committed to us on the phone in Omaha. But I remind the staff, we also didn't cram in 15 visits before we went to Omaha. We were patient and we just made sure that we found the right guys that are going to fit. You have to be careful thinking like, oh, this guy's a name and he's from the ACC or the SEC. But the last time I checked, we have a shortstop from Arcadia. We have a right fielder from North Carolina Wesleyan. Our DH is from Montclair State. Our second baseman from a junior. So, we just got to get the right guys.
You talk about the experience, and all the time we talk about players getting experience and big moments and all. And I asked you that after the win the other day about playing that last game against Oklahoma and how it affected your players. But also the coaches, your coaching staff, you guys get more experience as this goes on. Just sort of speak to that aspect of learning the navigation from a coaching standpoint, because I think experience for players is never overrated, but for coaches it matters as well.
Yeah, you're dead on. And until you've done it, you haven't done it. It's like being a head coach. Like I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And it's a different type of way you have to manage everything. So it helps obviously that we found a way to get to Omaha next year, and we had to navigate the portal. It opened. We had to deal with these type of things. Same thing with your coaching staff. We've all been together. So we also get better at working at it together and working through it, managing our current team, managing the practices. But we have such a great staff. Like I don't have to talk to Dave or Daniel or Carter about next week. If they have to plan ahead, you could also not win, but I'm just going to focus on today. And with our staff putting together next year's team, and they'll do all the planning and we'll go from there. But the experience is the experience, and it helps you in a game too. It helped us this regional manage. Okay, well, how did we go into LSU last year when we were 2-0 in a regional, knowing that we had another game? That helped us make those decisions on Sunday against Oklahoma, because if you go back and look, we didn't use Matthias and we didn't use Pence in that game. and we were going to use them, but only if we had the lead. So we kind of went in with the same approach.
We talk about guys energizing the lineup all the time, adding to the dynamic. How has having Scott Jackson back just added to the whole coaching dynamic and the dynamic in the building?
Well, Coach Jackson will tell you, one of the biggest reasons he came back here was because of the relationships with me, Coach Gaines, Coach Wierzbicki, Coach Howell. Not just that it's North Carolina. He missed, obviously, being here and that level, but it's just a group, and it's not like that everywhere. And I remind myself of that. I've been very blessed. Roger Williams and Chad Holbrook, my first day as a volunteer, took me right in. I didn't know them, but they couldn't have been nicer. They couldn't have been more welcoming. I shared an office with Roger Williams. They taught me a ton. And throughout my whole time being in North Carolina, I've loved every second with the staff. And I've heard nightmare stories of two assistants not getting along, an assistant, I guess the word is used, backstabbing or going behind the head coaches. We're just all on the same page. We all have the same personal interest. We're all dedicated to our families as well. And we want to have that balance. But they're great, having Scott, a baseball guy and a hard worker. And at the end of the day, Grace, he has 8 years of head coaching experience. So for 8 years, he's had to make decisions as a head coach, which helped me even more when I have to make a decision. I can ask Coach Jackson, and it's no offense to our other coaches, they haven't been in that seat from the standpoint of you have a different view of how you look at things at times. So that's been so beneficial. But the thing about Coach Jackson, he's just an old school baseball guy too. Like, he's a blue collar, hardworking, get in the weeds, get in the video. Is there anything on this picture? Is there, I'll sleep when the season's over. And that's just who he is. And that's why we got along so well, because we're wired the same. We've traveled all over the country recruiting players. We've stayed in 1 million hotel rooms together. So just the trust that I was telling Mandy that this morning. I had to call her about something. I just said, it's unbelievable that I don't have anything that I have to worry about. So I'm just so grateful for that, and that's a credit to the staff.
Yeah, you talk about plans, execution. You brought up the video. Tommy and I have talked about this a little bit. Watching, when you kind of look back at the whole season, it seems like you've been very intentional about how you're picking when to use your pitchers, especially your freshman relievers, in an effort to lengthen them out. What goes into deciding, hey, we want to lengthen out Ryan Lynch and Walker McDuffie, and how do you put that in practice so they can both be starters if you need them to be?
Yeah, you have to have a plan. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, as John Wooden always said. So we always have a plan. You have to use your gut too. We have an unbelievable analytics team. We have all the data. We have all the matchups. But, in a game, part of being a coach is you got to go by what you're seeing. That's what I always remind Coach Gaines when he's calling pitches: read the hitter in the game. Because you watch all this video and you think, man, this is how we have to pitch him. But then it's like, whoa, he's hot as a firecracker, and throw that out the door. We've got to go away instead of pounding him in. But we had those conversations. There's a great book that Coach Gaines told me about that I listened to by Bobby Bowden. I can't remember the name of it, but he would sit down with his staff and say, all right, let's have the worst case scenario conversation. What if this happens? Because it's easy if Jake Knapp throws 8 innings. He throws 8, but Duffy throws 9. Boom. But what if that's not the case? What if we need Aiden Houck out of the bullpen? Florida State's a great example. Okay, is Houck a good matchup to go to early? And then we burn Houck on Saturday, knowing that, okay, if we do that, then we're going to go to McDuffie to win the game and save Lynch to start. So just constant conversations. Coach Gaines is about done with Oklahoma now. Him and Coach Howell work together on all that. I'll sit down with them and we'll have before every game, pitching wise, we just sit down and we talk. Let's just talk about the pitching. Perfect world. What happens if we go here? Who do we want to use if we're behind? All those scenarios. But still, for me, it's an in-game decision. Go by what, like last year against West Virginia, it's like, well, we've got a game to play with, but we're up by 1. We're going to Dalton Pence. If we don't win, We just had to figure it out tomorrow. So those are the tougher decisions, right? You go to Dalton Pence against West Virginia, he throws 64 pitches. They get a base hit with the bases loaded, and it's like, what in the world is Coach Forbes doing? He can't pitch today, but it worked out. So, the players make you look good, Grace. That's it. When you have the plan, if they're the ones that have to execute it. So we'll have a plan, for Arizona, but we'll also have to adjust during the game for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. Oklahoma clearly, I'm sure they had a scout on Gavin Gallagher, but like Coach Johnson said after the last game, he covered every pitch. Every pitch they threw, he was able to cover and do damage with it. So when it does go sideways, how much, and I know in-game decisions are what you just talked about, but how much do you talk with Jackson? Do you talk with Gaines? Do you talk with the other guys about that worst case scenario when it's in action? Because like you said, if you'd have thrown Ryan Lynch and McDuffie on Sunday and burned them, that would not have been good for Monday. And so you've got to, at what point do you sacrifice, not necessarily a game, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. You hope you don't have to sacrifice a game. You look at that game on Sunday, our guys had good stuff, but we just didn't pitch it well and we didn't defend. If we make plays, even without using McDuffie and Lynch, we're still in the game at 9-5. It's probably 6-5. And we're right in striking distance. But I also believe in going for it like we did last year against West Virginia. You have to be careful giving a team another day if you can take care of business that day. So to answer your question, we do talk about the worst case scenario. Most importantly with that, we just talk about keeping our poise. The players are going to look at us when things aren't going well. How are we carrying ourselves? Because we want them to carry themselves the right way. You get down 5-0 in the first, big deal, right? Like it happens, keep playing. Don't look at the scoreboard, keep your composure. And as an offense, especially when something happens unexpectedly, you can really press to try to get those runs back really, really fast. So what we just talk about is you're just trying to get on base and then give the ball, give the at bat to the next guy. If it's a walk, we'll get a 2-out hit. All of a sudden it goes from 5-0 to 5-2. Then a pitcher steps up and it's 5-4. So I explained to the players, you have to respond the same when you go up because it's such an emotional time of year. If we go up 6-0 like we did against Oklahoma, it's the first inning. You know how easy it is to come back from a 6-0 lead at times. So you have to tack on the next inning. We have to tack on that. We can't just sit on that 6-run lead. So it's really a twofold deal that we just talk about. And at the end of the day, the hardest part in these bigger games is trying to stay with that and slow down and just literally play pitch to pitch. That's what I try to do as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, it pays off, but it is a fine – you got to thread the needle on those type situations, and it's a lot more difficult than I think people think. But let's talk about the lineup a little bit. And at times during this season, you sort of moved guys up and down based on their production or their struggles and all, but you've left Luke Stevenson where he is. And we talked about it last night on our preview show is he's protected there because he's got Gallagher behind him, and then Gallagher's got Stokely behind him. What goes into those decisions, and how important is it to have a guy behind another one? Because you don't want to walk Luke to get to Gavin and vice versa and all. So lineup questions at this point in the season for you.
Really for us, for the most part, it's been, okay, does Madera hit 7th or does he hit 6? Him and Bass, those two. Top 5 right now is not changing. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. The DH is, we've kind of matched up the whole year, but Sam's grabbed that recently and his confidence is at an all-time high. He's looking good against lefties, looking good against righties. We have other options if we need to pitch run. And Carter French has been the X factor, honestly, since we put him in. His at-bats keep getting better. He's close to 250, I think, now. I don't know what he's hitting, but he's getting on base and he's locked and he's playing an unbelievable defense. There are a lot of balls that have been hit, I think, to left field that teams think are extra base hits, and we grab them with him and Kepley out there. And then obviously Bass made a heck of a play. I think it was Monday in the gap for Lynch. So I feel like it's pretty set with, obviously we got some guys that we can work in that DH. The thing about Luke, and Luke and I talked about this, is he's so competitive. Deep down he feels like he has to do this, has to do that for us to win. But we've just talked to him about your best attribute is the strike zone. So take your walks. And if you start taking your walks again, you'll start doing more damage, because the reason he struggled is he's just been going out of the zone more than his normal going out of the zone. And he's not a base clogger. He's a solid base runner that can score. So I just reminded him against Arizona, you don't have to be the hero. You don't try to hit a home run every time. If you take a walk, that's a single. And I explained to him Kyle Schwarber, like, look how much money he's making. He hits 200, but he walks and he hits bombs. I said, you do the same thing. I said, when you hit the ball, it's hit really, really hard. The reason you're not hitting the ball right now is just because you were just pressing a little bit and going out of the zone. So I feel really good about Luke this weekend. He's so competitive. A lot of people think he's worn out, but he's not. Like, he feels as good as he's ever felt. He's taking care of his body. So we'll keep that order that we had. That'll be our batting order tomorrow for sure.
I mean, you were a catcher. Just how much extra is it to think about when Luke is up at the plate and he gets a call that he knows is outside and they call as a strike? Just how much more of that mental game does he have to add in when he's at the plate? Because he's always at the plate on the defensive side. And so it seems like he has to balance just a little bit more in his mind when he's up there on the offensive side. What more does he have to do to get through that when he knows that some things might not be the most consistent?
You have to balance your anger, because like, why? Well, what the heck, man? You're not giving that pitch to Jake Knapp, but you're calling it on me. So you have to take a deep breath, have those conversations, with maturity and with the right tone with the umpire to keep him on our side. But the umpires, man, they've been so complimentary of Luke. They don't want to call a bad pitch on him. So he's more mature than most kids. But you have to balance it. There are things that I give our players. I always bust our players' chops. You just don't know unless you catch. Like, it's a hard position to play. You get banged up. A lot of times you're hitting and you can't feel one of your two fingers because, you're catching 90. I didn't catch that, but I still didn't feel maybe I wasn't that great of a receiver and I jam my finger sometimes. But, you get thumbed, you get hit a lot in places that really hurt. And, it's like, got to catch my breath here. Then I have to go hit, and you're squatting and you're throwing. So it's a demanding position. And that's where we do a really good job of, Coach Gatz, Terry Joe, the recovery pools, the supplementation, so he can be at his best this time of year. But you definitely have to manage more up here.
And then I'm going to flip it back to the pitching staff quickly. You've said the hardest thing to win is a regional because you might need that many number of arms, which you guys showed against Oklahoma. With the Super, it goes back to like a weekend series. Mm-hmm. Does that change at all? Which guys in the bullpen numbers you're going to call just based on the fact that you might go all in like you did on the second West Virginia game?
Just treat it like a weekend series. Like we're gonna do whatever we can to win this series, and I'm a firm believer you're trying to win that game one. So whatever it takes to win game one is what we're going to do. We're not throwing Jason Nakara. That's the only person I can tell you that won't pitch because he's starting on Saturday. Otherwise, if we can use them to win, we'll use them. I mean, we're realistic. Lynch and McDuffie are off 3 days, but they also didn't throw 130 pitches. So they would be, in a normal time, if they were a starter, they'd be throwing a heavy bullpen today. So they'll be ready to rock and roll tomorrow. Drilling will be flowing. So we'll use whoever we need to use tomorrow to win that game, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you kind of went where I wanted to go. And we're talking with head coach Scott Forbes. Not going to keep you much longer, but I do have a question that I'm curious about. How much preparation goes into, and this may be a question for Gaines, but just curious as to how you guys do it, goes into pitch selection and location to guys, your pitchers throwing to the opponent. But not only that, the shift aspect, which I'm on record, I hate the shift. But how much of that preparation goes into that? How far do you drill down into these individual opponent hitters to get to that point? Obviously, players have to execute it. But how much work actually goes into it? Because I don't think people understand the level of detail you guys get into.
Yeah, I completely trust – Coach Wiersbicki does our infield positioning. Coach Jackson does our outfield positioning. At the end of the day, and you've got 200 plus at bats. I mean, the charts are the charts. So I would like us to go to the major league model, but right now we haven't. And, I can go back and look at my spray charts from 2006, a guy like John Jay, and we're playing straight up. But the spray chart has one ground ball in 3 years hit to the left side of second base. So, like, why are we doing that? Doesn't make sense. And that's what everybody says when it happens. But, Coach Weir's already warned me this morning. He said, Coach, we're going to be in a lot of fives. Fives mean it's a shift. That means 3 guys are on one side of the base. And he likes to prepare me because I look up and I'm like, but that's the data. And now you might have to read a swing. But the higher level competition, you have to go by what the data shows, or you're just dumb. It just doesn't make sense. And if they hit one off the end of the bat, that's baseball. That's just is what it is. But a lot of preparation goes into that. And you don't pitch to the shift. You pitch to the pitcher's strength. If we're shifting a left-handed hitter, everybody's on that side of the bag, we're still going to go away to him because he takes pitches that are away and he pulls them, or we wouldn't be in that shift. So that's what I always remind Coach Gaines of is Jake Knapp's strength tomorrow is number one over the hitter's weakness, right? Like, Tommy, if you're a fastball hitter, well, you're getting fastballs from Jake Knapp. So one of you are going to win. And if all of a sudden Jake Knapp starts throwing all sliders and it's a below average slider, well, then that guy can hit that below average slider. So that's just how I've always been, but you also can't ignore what you have right in front of you.
Last question, Coach. And again, we appreciate it. And I'm a fastball hitter, but it might be a 75-mile-an-hour fastball. Let me ask a question about this since you've been in it forever. What is it about soft tossing lefties? And this is a random question. What is it about soft tossing lefties that give hitters hell? Seems like guys can hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball, especially if it's flat. And that's one thing about Witherspoon's fastball the other night. It appeared to be fairly flat. But soft tossing lefties, why? Why do soft tossing lefties give people trouble?
It's just, I would say go farther and say usually that lefty has a really good changeup. And a guy with a nasty changeup, man, it doesn't matter who they are. That is a difficult thing to deal with. And then if they throw the fastball with decent command off of that changeup, and then add in that they're left-handed and the ball's moving away or in, and you have to change your approach, it's not something you see as much either. Now it's all about chasing velocity and hard. And that's why some pitchers, man, like if there's a pitcher that's 92, 94 and his changeup 78, but if he's 92, 94 and his changeup 86, well, that's not that big a deal. So that's why Michael Morin way back for us, I mean, it was, as they call it, a Bugs Bunny changeup. Like on a yo-yo, he would throw 92 and the changeup was 72. And it came out of his hand just like it. So that's how it is with soft tossers. You're already staying back. Let's say it's for 85, and then he throws in a 72-mile-an-hour changeup. It just messes with you. And that's where the approach comes in, though, Tommy. Like, Coach Weir said it best. Like, they have different looks. Arizona does. So our approach is going to be vital. Like, we have to have an approach, and we have to stick to that approach.
Indeed. Carolina, Arizona, noon on Friday, noon on Saturday. And maybe another one, but we shall see. Coach Forbes, it's always a pleasure, and we know you're busy, and it means a lot to Inside Carolina folks for you to take your time to do this.
Oh yeah, I'm thankful to do it. I've been how about just the crowds? Like, Carolina baseball's come a long ways, and it helps our guys. That's what I enjoy the most. I walk out there and I see all these people here, and then I see the guys out in the field. I mean, that's what I would want if I was a player. So hopefully that everybody, it sounds like the tickets were extremely difficult to get, and that's a good sign. So I'm excited for our players.
Yep, we'll see you later today, actually, but we'll see you this weekend in Boshamer with your team.
Sounds great. Thanks a ton. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you in a little bit.